Good morning, everybody. I'm Miguel.
And I'm Renee, and we're your hosts. Welcome to Signals in the Noise, daily insights into trends in Florida's narrative landscape.
Signals in the Noise takes a look at news articles, social media content, and other platforms to identify conversations, messages, and stories that reinforce ideas, beliefs, and values that we interact with every day. This allows us to identify the shape and color of how meaning is made in the landscape which we're all organizing and communicating in. This is what we like to call monitoring the narrative weather. And we're here, your resident meteorologist, tracking all of it.
Each morning, we'll take you through the latest, where we cover stories of importance. Then we'll move to Hot Takes, where we look at viral content. And we'll wrap things up with On the Radar, a segment where we talk about real time stories that we're tracking. EVA, one of our lovely hosts, won't be with us for the next few episodes, but she'll be back on Signals in the Noise next week. In the meantime, it's just you and me, Miguel.
You know what, Renee? I don't think we make a bad team, although I kind of miss EVA already.
Same.
Anyway, let's get right into our first segment, the latest. As the Trump campaign has lauded the economy as one of its bright spots, the reality is that the rich got super rich, the poor got poorer, and the working class tried harder than ever to keep their heads above water. Is this a spicy enough take on this, Renee?
Spicy enough for me. And I know that the economy is working, but my question is for who? Stocks went up, sure. The administration has pumped trillions of tax dollars into the stock market to keep it propped up. The top CEOs made $800 billion as 8 million Americans slipped into poverty. Meanwhile, statewide, unemployment has increased from 7.4% in August to nearly 8% in September, representing 770,000 out of work Floridians. At the county level, Osceola County, I'm looking at you, Disney World, has the most severe rate of joblessness, followed by Miami-Dade, Polk, and Broward County. But let's keep talking about the benefits of capitalism and trickle down economics. It's just so great.
Oh, capitalism, just as American as apple pie and baseball. It comes as no surprise that there are folks trying to peddle pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes, though, which typically explode during times of economic crisis. Whether they're fraudulent bonds or pyramid schemes disguised as susus, also known as savings groups gone wrong, it is working people that are going to have to pay the price. We've
Mhm.
received reports that some Spanish speaking bond salespeople are reaching out to folks to persuade them into buying bonds, promising them that if Trump wins the election, they'll reap the benefits and cash out with the bonds that they buy. Inside of the overall online election conversation in Florida, the conversation surrounding bonds is very small, though. We still thought it was important enough to talk about, though, and hopefully this information can help protect your constituents.
And we definitely have to start with a short economics lesson. I'll be the first to admit I'm not that great at math. I'm not sure about you, Miguel.
Yeah, math was not really my best subject in school.
Totally can relate. Totally can relate. The Federal Reserve has been buying bonds at higher levels to prop up the US economy, and they promised no rate hikes through 2022. This seems like it could be good for investors and to the average person that wants to get involved in stocks.
Right, except it isn't. The truth is that the folks pushing people to purchase bonds are likely offering junk bonds or high yield bonds because investors are compensated at higher rates. Junk bonds investors are doing pretty well during the pandemic, all things considered. This is due in part to industries that have suffered losses during the pandemic and have been labeled risky businesses. Airlines and fast food companies are being forced to borrow funds from credit markets to lock in financing before any potential volatility affects the stock market in the aftermath of the US elections.
The fact that airlines get to borrow all of this money, yet all of my flight attendant friends have been furloughed, where is the money going? Where's the money going, Miguel?
Look, your guess is as good as mine, Renee. But if banks decide to reject bond sales, which has already started, investors will not be able to withdraw from junk bond mutual funds because there's not enough liquid assets to pay them back. And so what's being offered to potential bond buyers vanishes and they lose all their money.
Okay, but can I get some of these magical bonds to help me pay off my student loans? I could really use
Yeah.
this is a ripe time to spread misinformation about the economy, especially as stories shed a not so positive light on what the next few months could look like. The Fed's low interest rates means it may no longer guarantee a secure retirement through pension plans, which could undermine the future of pensions. Reuters reports that two of the country's top three major US credit agencies are watching the election, and they've said that anything other than a smooth transition of power could cause concern. The US currently has a close to top-notch credit rating because the US Treasury has the largest and most liquid assets in the world. Look, even the credit agencies are setting the tone and the story for what they think is to come on November 3rd.
Yeah. We've also noticed Russia state affiliated media RT is attempting to spread doubt on the election, claiming that a Biden win would have a negative impact on the economy. This is likely a counter story for those pushing the talking point that Biden's presidency is good for both Main Street and Wall Street, and uplifting the idea that Trump's economic policies have led to consistent increases in the stock market. Biden's proposed economic plan would be more progressive than the one currently in place, and it does not conflate the stock market with the overall economy, because they're not the same thing.
They are not the same thing.
No.
We haven't even gotten to the old Illuminati conspiracy theories and conspiracy theories that focus on dismantling the Federal Reserve.
Not the Illuminati again. That's so 2000 and late.
It's definitely giving me Jay-Z and Beyonce circa Crazy in Love.
I was actually thinking more deja vu.
That'll work too.
But it makes sense. Since QAnon has pretty much absorbed every conceivable thing into the megatron of conspiracy theories, it's no surprise that those who are anti-Fed and pro-Trump are trying to paint a different picture, especially because so many voters support him because of the economy, a sentiment that has decreased as new polls show Biden polling higher than Trump on the economy.
Did you also know that 52% of Trump supporters believe he's working to take down a deep state cabal?
So over half of his supporters are QAnon believers?
I think the phrase you're looking for is digital soldier.
Sure, Renee, whatever. It just freaks me out that they can still lure unsuspecting people into their web of lies. I can't imagine the amount of folks in Florida that have decided to invest some of their savings really believing that they'll be well off in the coming weeks. They might be worried about not being able to pay their rent or their mortgage, rationing out their medications because their health insurance got axed along with their job, skipping meals, some still waiting for unemployment benefits. I mean, it's easy to see how somebody can get taken advantage when we're all in a hard place.
It really is. And we saw how folks got over on people with fake internet gifting circles. So I'm not surprised that a name change and a different strategy still has the same effect. And it also shows just how far-reaching conspiracy theories are and how life-altering they can be, and not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
With that, let's move on to our next segment, Hot Takes. At the end of last week, the Florida Housing Finance Corporation offered an update on the coronavirus relief fund that launched back in August. First announced by Governor DeSantis, the $250 million CRF program was unveiled to assist Floridians impacted by the pandemic with rental and mortgage assistance. Through the CARES Act, these funds are dedicated to assist tenants living in Florida housing's multifamily and special needs developments and other affected homeowners and renters.
That sounds pretty good, but not good enough.
Agreed.
New federal guidelines released late Friday altered the eviction moratorium put in place by the CDC and opened the doors for landlords to evict their tenants. Bay 9 News reports the new guidelines clarify that landlords can initiate proceedings for non-payment of rent cases so long as the actual eviction itself does not occur while the CDC order is in effect. This puts the burden of proof of renters to show that they met all the requirements to be protected under the CDC's guidelines, because there's no protection at the state level, since DeSantis did not extend the eviction moratorium. Also, this only applies for Florida renters. Florida homeowners are still facing looming foreclosures.
And somehow, despite all of the things, what does DeSantis decide to do? Despite coronavirus still going strong, he says he won't close schools in the case of spikes. Oh, and Deloitte is getting another whopping $135 million state contract to continue running Florida's failed unemployment system. I'd like to see how they handle the 100,000 new unemployment claims this week.
Jeez, is he trying to prove failures by design out here? Like, what's the deal? He's done nothing around the things Floridians actually need, like, I don't know, pandemic relief? And this is while COVID cases continue to rise and breadlines get longer and longer every day.
Miguel, your guess is just as good as mine, but this is really not looking good for his reelection chances. And no, it's never too early to talk about reelection.
True that.
Now, now let's move into our last segment, On the Radar.
As more disinformation regarding pedophilia makes the rounds, we're tracking stories and conversations spreading claims that Christian girls are being targeted by sex traffickers. The article for Mundo Cristiano, which is owned by the Christian Broadcasting Network, claims that the Trump administration is taking steps to combat these efforts. The hashtag Cristianismo Viral is circulating in a number of Facebook pages that have shared a simplified graphic of the story repeating the claim. There's a potential spread in Spanish-speaking pages on Facebook, especially in other religious groups on Florida.
And on the disinformation tip, the hashtag Obamagate is trending on Twitter, and more Pedo Joe and Hunter Biden content is tracking on the platform by QAnoners, likely in an attempt to gain center stage at tomorrow's debate. Trump is also taking to Twitter to spread election disinformation yet again. We'll be monitoring conversations, and we'll be focusing on any conversations in pro-Biden groups, or if the Biden campaign will address some of the allegations against the former vice president.
I think you meant tonight's debate, but also I just want to. I just want to scream rigged election right now. Also, as a New York Times story focused on misinformation and how it pits Black and Latinx voters in Florida against each other was published on October 21st. We're tracking how folks are talking about the piece as well as technology's role in spreading mis and disinformation, which can be found on Reddit and will likely branch out to Twitter and Facebook. On that debate tip, since they are tonight, and for any of our viewers, if you missed our episodes of Signal in the Noise from October 21st, we highly recommend watching it again to catch our analysis and pre-bunks to inform your talking points if you plan on live tweeting or creating content during and after the debate. Well, that's all for us this morning. Thanks for tuning into Signals in the Noise and have a great rest of your day.
See you all later.
Perfect.